We will inspire, but ultimately, we will always choose Earth. We will always choose each other.
Life on Earth is a game, and the developers were not fair when they made it. They set up the game in a way where everyone spawns as a completely random character. You have no say over which character you become. Some characters will have an easy time going through the quests, completing the levels, getting the coins, and ultimately winning the game. For other characters, the developers made the game in a way where they can still progress through the levels, complete the quests, get some coins, but no matter what they do, they will never, ever win.
I found myself noticing not only the beauty of the Earth, but how much blackness there was around it.
If it's not clear by now, the developers were jerks, and their goal was to turn those players into NPCs so they can become characters that help other characters complete their quests and eventually win the game. And an NPC is a non-player character. As the name implies, it's a character that's not controlled by a player, it's controlled by the game. Now, some players say we should opt out of the game altogether, which isn't really an option because if we opt out of the game, we just lose by default. Others say that the right thing to do is to simply follow the rules, play the game, and hope for the best. So there is no shortage of bad advice out there, none of which works, because most players don't understand that there's a catch.
When we burned this bird towards the moon, I said that we do not leave Earth, but we choose it.
Because the thing is, the developers of the game, not only were they unfair and jerks, they also weren't developers at all. And they had no idea what the hell they were doing. So the game is riddled with bugs. And the characters who figure this out,
we will explore, we will build,
are able to find the hacks and the cheat codes that not only prevent them from becoming an NPC,
we will build ships, we will visit again,
but also help them win the game.
We will found companies, we will boast our industry.
And the really smart characters understand that the game is adaptive. And if enough players use the hacks and the cheat codes, the game starts to rewrite itself.
We will inspire, but ultimately, we will always choose Earth. We will always choose each other.
When we spawn in the game, we go through introductory levels that give our character a form. And in the first few years of the game, we kind of act however we want and do what pleases us without any consequences. But after the first few years, we are put through tutorials like school, culture, friendships that start to teach us how our player should progress through the game. And it's around that time that our player is introduced to the concept of right and wrong, what's acceptable and unacceptable. So that sounds all fine and dandy, but the problem is that not all characters are taught the same thing. So what some characters are taught is bad, others are taught is expected. Some characters are taught that their goal in the game is to win, while other characters are taught that their goal is to help others win. And what ends up happening is that most characters, especially the ones that the developers didn't want winning, end up living as a version of themselves that they didn't create. And that version involves them thinking that their goal in the game is to help another character win. And that's the first step to becoming an NPC. Because you start to lose control over your character. And what a lot of us don't realize is that the game is smart. Sure, the developers were idiots, but the game itself is very clever. And once we start devolving into NPCs, it's able to control the one thing we thought we had control over, which is our thoughts. And that's when we become one step closer to not only becoming a full-blown NPC, but to losing the game altogether. The game can't actually read the minds of its characters or control their thoughts directly, but it can trick us into thinking a certain way, which then determines how we feel about ourselves, about other characters, and about the game as a whole. And how does it indirectly control our thoughts? Well, think back to the tutorials at the beginning of the game, where some characters are taught that certain strategies are good and that they should pursue them, while other characters are taught that the same strategies are bad and make them bad players. That's when the game begins to control our thoughts indirectly. And as an additional way of preventing those characters from winning, the tutorials also make sure that those characters feel a certain way after they do a bad thing. They want them to feel bad about themselves. They want them to think that they are bad characters without anyone telling them that they are. So that's the next step in becoming an NPC. It's thinking in the way that the game wants us to. And this feels really easy for a lot of characters because they're already operating in the game that's programmed to make them lose, to make them a side character in someone else's quest. So the deeper our character gets in the process of devolving into an NPC, the easier the transformation becomes. Because eventually we get to a point where the NPC becomes self-sufficient and it no longer needs the game to tell it how to think or how to act. It's now fully operating with those predetermined scripts and actions and behaviors that the game developers programmed for the NPCs. So how do we avoid becoming an NPC in the first place? And if you feel like you're already on the path to becoming a full-blown NPC, is there any way to go back? And most importantly, how do we win the game? There's a rough estimate out there that there's about a 1 in 400 trillion chance of you spawning. So just being in the game is already so unlikely, yet we're all here somehow. And the truth of the matter is that you're in the game whether you want to be or not. None of us asked to spawn. None of us got a choice over which character we'd have, but we are here and we can't opt out of it. And you only get one shot at the game. There is no level up. There's no extra lives. This is the only one you have, and that's it. And this game, it's not a game to rescue Peach from Bowser or to collect star coins or anything like that. If you can tell, I loved Mario. That's what I grew up playing. It is a game of power. And power in this game is never given. It is either taken or it's created. Now here's the twist, because when the revolution comes, you're going to know that there's always a twist. The game is riddled with bugs, and it is ripe to be hacked. And you don't actually have to play by the rules of the game in order to win. Because if you spawned as a character who's already disadvantaged by the developers of the game, then you cannot play by the rules. Because that's exactly what the developers want you to do in order to lose. So the twist is that you can use cheat codes and hacks to play the game. You can rewrite the game in any way you want, in any way that helps you win, and the game will allow it. Because remember, the developers were unfair and idiots. And that's exactly why I named my book How to Hack the Patriarchy. And there's always some really enlightened book critic out there who asks me, why didn't you call it How to Smash the Patriarchy? I'd read it if it was called How to Smash the Patriarchy. But people don't realize that by hacking the system, you're smashing it in the most effective way. You can get mad at the game all you want. You can yell, go to protests, write letters to your member of parliament, sign petitions, post stories. You can do all those things, and those are not bad things in and of themselves, but those are all forms of instant gratification, and they make no difference to the game. In fact, they actually benefit the game because a lot of the time doing those things makes you more tired. It depletes your energy levels. And if you use your energy on those things, then you can't use it on other things. And the game loves it when you engage in short-term thinking. But the long-term dismantling comes from rewriting the code. So to truly hack the game and rewrite its code, there are certain things that every single one of us have to do. And it requires no anger, no money, no letters, no public displays of anything. The first thing we need to do is to understand that we're not experiencing true reality. We're told that there's one reality, one objective truth, but that doesn't exist. There is no the truth. There is no the reality. What you see is a mediated reality. It's a filter. For example, the news shows you stories that were chosen by somebody and presented to you in a certain way. Social media presents to you a version of reality that the person who created the post wants you to believe. An influencer can go rent an Airbnb for a weekend, go and shoot a bunch of content in there, and then post it over the course of several months and make it look like they live in a mansion. And that's the reality they want you to believe. Everyone is giving you a mediated version of reality. Your boss, your coworkers, your partner, your landlord, everyone. And the way they mediate this reality and filter it in a way that is palatable for you is by creating symbols and using language. For example, when I worked in consulting, I used to write a lot of sustainability reports for big companies. And these companies had to disclose their environmental performance, like their electricity use, natural gas use, water usage, waste generated, greenhouse gas emissions, all that sort of stuff. And if their performance was bad, if it increased year over year and it made them look bad, they'd ask us to write the report in a way that made it look like it wasn't their fault. Oh, we had a huge renovation at this property to retrofit, blah, 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 blah. And that's why our emissions went up. Oh, the return to office after COVID happened and everybody went back to work. So electricity use at our office buildings went up astronomically. Even though they have the data, which is part of the source of truth, they can still mediate how they communicate that data. Another example is celebrities. For example, Taylor Swift represents a symbol for a lot of women of the anti-cool girl, the girl in school who was on the sidelines and overlooked and overshadowed. So we are fed versions of reality through language and symbols. We're told what to buy, wear, feel, eat. We're told who to love, hate, support, cancel. We're told which social causes make us look like better people. We're told which social causes make us look like jerks. We're told which jobs make us look like good contributing members to society. We're told so many things about how we should carry ourselves in the world. And all of it has come through a filter. And the thing is, it's not just reality that's being filtered through institutions like media and schools and your asshole boss. It's also our brain. Our brain is also a filter. For example, I'm wearing a black dress today. However, I can make you believe that my dress is actually navy blue. I could tell you that it's navy blue, and you'll actually start to think that, oh, you know what? It looks black, but maybe that's just the lighting in her video. Maybe it's my phone screen. Maybe it's the brightness. Maybe it's my blue light filter. And you start thinking of all these ways to rationalize that my dress is actually blue. So what you think is reality is simply reality because you agreed that it is reality. Okay, and this is the most sheep mentality thing ever. It's not your fault though, because we're taught to accept things at face value. We're taught to respect institutions, and we're taught that lying is bad, that we should never lie. And because we don't do it, other people aren't going to do it either. We're brainwashed into this false sense of reciprocity with the world. That if I'm honest and fair and good, other people will be honest and fair and good. Which is so stupid, because that could not be further from the truth. But that's exactly what the game wants us to think. I sound like the keynote speaker at the Wackadoodle convention, but that's only because I am telling you the truth. And sometimes the truth sounds even crazier than the lie, than the lies that we are fed. Because when the revolution comes, that's going to be my tagline at the Wackadoodle convention. When the revolution comes, why did my voice crack? You're going to realize that the truth often sounds crazier than the mediated reality that you've been fed. Simple as that. And again, going back to our sheep mentality, if you didn't create your reality, which chances are you didn't, then you are not thinking for yourself. And that is exactly how we become NPCs. So that was the first step. We need to understand that our reality is mediated. Listen, years from now, this episode is going to be dissected in universities and colleges. It's going to be crazy. So with that big realization out of the way, the next thing we need to do is we need to recreate our reality. We need to truly understand that reality isn't something that's out there objectively existing without our intervention. Reality is something that you create. And most people can't master reality because they are slaves to reality, to the mediated reality that I just talked about, because they take things at face value. And you don't know what you don't know. So the first step is to know what you didn't know and understand that this is a mediated reality. So here's another truth for you. Everybody at the Wackadoodle convention, please write this down in your notebooks. The truth is that there are an infinite number of realities, and you choose which one you want. You create which one you want. There's a whole world that we can't see. There's all these levels and quests that our characters are left in the dark about. The reality that we exist in now is like going to a restaurant and having a menu with only 5 items in it, when the truth is that that restaurant has no menu. You can order anything you want and the chef will cook it for you. So remember that. The world is a restaurant with no menu, with an infinite kitchen that can make you anything your heart desires. Okay? And to first want it, you need to think about it. I can't order a truffle mac and cheese without first thinking about it and realizing that that's what I want. And taking a step back, wanting it and thinking about it aren't enough. You need to believe that you deserve that and you're going to get that with every fiber of your being. And it's crazy to say this, but this is something we can learn from narcissists. Narcissists are master manifestors and manipulators, but they're master manifestors. Look at Donald Trump. I'm not even kidding. This flaming hot Cheeto literally became president through manifestation, and I will die on this hill. Because narcissists have such an unwavering sense of self and sense of grandness that they truly believe they deserve the good things that they think they deserve. And those desires that you wholeheartedly believe in, those are part of the instruction manual for the universe, for the universal intelligence to give you what you want. Universal intelligence, or the creator, the spirit, Mother Earth, Mother Nature, whatever you want to call her, she is on your team. You and the universe are on the same side. Somebody like Victimella can't understand this because victims believe that the universe and the whole world is against them, and they've created the worst possible version of reality for themselves. However, you need to understand that the reality you create is based on what you think you deserve. And what you think you deserve is based on what you truly want. And what you truly want is based on your self-concept and how much respect and love you have for yourself. And the way that we act is determined by the way that we think. And the way that you think is determined by your reality. I know it's a lot to take in. You might have to replay this a couple of times. But all that to say, if I really had to boil this down to the most simple one-line summary, you won't get anything until you believe you truly deserve it. And that's when we begin to recreate our reality and rewrite the game's code. So this might make a lot of sense. Maybe you have some goosebumps. But you might be thinking, okay, so how do we know what our reality should look like? If everything that I'm faced with right now is made up, mediated, and filtered, and that the universe is waiting for me to figure out what the hell I want so she can give it to me, what is it that I want? I'm going to give you an answer that is going to blow your mind. Okay, so when I was a kid, I really wanted to be an astronaut, and I feel like I am living my little kid dream right now. Everything in this world, in this universe, started with the Big Bang. All matter, energy, space, and time came from that one moment. Some people think that this happened like 4,000 years ago. In reality, this has been 14 billion years in the making. I can't even wrap my head around that number. So everything, the microphone I'm talking into, the shoes on your feet, the earphones in your ear that you're using to listen to me speak, me, you, everyone, everything came from the same origin. And the main elements that came from the Big Bang were hydrogen and helium. The main elements that stars are composed of are hydrogen and helium. And when stars reach the end of their life, they explode and scatter their matter all over space, and they form a cloud of debris called nebula. And then that debris clumps together and forms other stars and planets and life. So every atom of carbon in your cells, every atom of oxygen that you breathe, every bit of calcium in your bones was all made inside of a star billions of years ago. So we are not just existing in the universe, we are of the universe. And the way to understand what you want your reality to look like is to listen to your intuition. Your intuition is like that little bit of the universe's voice that is inside of you, telling you what you need to hear. And your intuition can come to you in many ways. It could be a little feeling in your gut when you're doing something that doesn't quite feel right. It could be a voice at the back of your head that you've been ignoring and that comes to the forefront when you meditate. It could even be diarrhea. I'm not even kidding. Like, it can actually be your gut being completely out of whack when you're in a situation that is wreaking havoc on your nervous system. Intuition comes to us in many forms, and one of the times that it's at its strongest is during our luteal phase and also during our period. So pay attention to the little hints that your intuition is giving you, to the spiritual pain that you might have during your luteal phase. If your luteal phase is really tough, it could be because you have a lot of unresolved emotions and thoughts and ignored intuition that is literally kicking and begging and pleading for you to let it out and be free and understand it. Your luteal phase might also be really terrible because your gut microbiome is out of whack, because our gut produces 95% of our serotonin. And I discussed that in my episode on menstrual health. Being in tune with your cycle can really help you hone in on your intuition. Another thing that could really help is looking at pictures of yourself from when you were a kid. I would say from when you were between 4 to 8 years old, although this can vary. And if you notice, the prologue of my book is about how we come into this world with boundless color and imagination. And as we get to around the age of 5, That's when that color gets drained from us. We're told to act a certain way based on our gender, and we kind of just become gray like the rest of the world. I know for some of us that happens at around age 5. For others, it might be a little bit later, but usually around age 8 is when most kids have their color drained from them. And for me, looking back at photos of little 5-6-year-old Nikki was so eye-opening. Because baddies, when I tell you, I was that bitch. Like, I was a diva. When my parents would take photos of me, I would go and put on every single piece of jewelry that I had. Yes, as a 5-year-old, I had a lot of jewelry. I'd have like 20 bangles on each hand, like 10 clips in my hair. Oh my goodness, it was so cute. And the thing is, when I was 5, I was like, when I grow up, I want to be a superstar. In fact, I already am a superstar. And I kind of just ignored this as I got a little bit older. And I'm like, this is so stupid. This is embarrassing. That's so cringe. A superstar. Who do you think you are? Like Mary-Kate and Ashley? Do you guys remember Mary-Kate and Ashley? I used to watch a lot of their movies and read the books. Oh my God. The detective series. Amazing. But that's like the color that got stamped out of me. And when I started working full time and thinking to myself, well, this is my career. That's when my spiritual pain got to a point of being excruciating. Something I remember so distinctly is when I would be walking to the office, like I'd be walking from the subway station to the office, for example, I'd think to myself, wow, anyone who saw me walking down the street would think I am on my way to like the coolest job ever, to be a superstar. Yet I am literally on my way to sit at a desk for 8 hours. And I don't know if I'm articulating this that well, but I just felt such a disconnect between who I want to be and who I actually am deep down and who I'm pretending to be right now. That's how I felt. Honestly, the way I can explain it is at the beginning of Beauty and the Beast, when Belle sings, "There must be more than this provincial life." That was literally me. Like energetically and spiritually, that's how I felt. I'm like, there's gotta be more than this. There's no way. So reeling this all back into what our reality should look like, listen to your intuition. Your intuition is literally the universe's voice telling you, hey, I want to give you what you want, but you got to listen to yourself and be clear on what your desires are so that I can follow my instruction manual properly. So that's how we figure out how we want our reality to look like. The last thing we need to do is to tune yourself to the right frequency. Okay? Picture it like a radio. A lot of us, at one point or another, were on the loser station. We were tuned to, what's some loser number? 69.9. I'm kidding. Think about it like this. If I want to listen to pop music on 92.5, but I'm currently on AM radio, that sounds like the mic is in someone's butthole, and it sounds like this.
Welcome to AM radio. You're probably listening to this by accident on your way to the airport at 3 a.m.
Well, guess what? I'm not going to be hearing the pop music on 92.5. So you need to tune your mindset and tune yourself, your energy to the right frequency. If you're tuned into the loser station with the 24-hour program hosted by Victimella, you're just going to have loser frequency and you're going to attract loser things. When you start creating the reality you want through the thoughts that you have, the beliefs that you hold, the desires that you believe you are deserving of, you're able to tune yourself to the right frequency. This is exactly what people mean when they say, act like the version of you that already has it. You need to be tuned to the right frequency. Like I am tuned to the baddie station at 97.7. That's my birth year. So if any loser comes my way and they're tuned to some janky AM radio station, I can't even, it just sounds like static, like white noise. It's like, what do you, get away from me. You're interfering with my frequency. So these are all the ways that we understand we are in a mediated reality. Break free of being the slaves of that mediated reality and start creating the version of reality that aligns with what we want. So we are in this game whether we want to be or not. We are on a rock flying through space that is heating up because of the greenhouse effect. And this is probably the only rock in this entire universe that has patriarchy on it. This is the game that we live in. If you opt out, you lose by default. If you play by the rules, you lose by default. If you create your own rules, find the hacks, find the cheat codes, and create a version of the game that suits you, then you will win and you will never become an NPC. The NPCs are the pick-me's, the women who've been indoctrinated into religion, the women who believe that men are superior, who believe that they are incubators and men are the ones who hold power. Those are the NPCs of the world. And those are the women who are playing by the rules. The other women who are also NPCs are the ones who believe that it's wrong to play the game at all, that we should completely opt out. Again, they lost by default. That's why my book is called How to Hack the Patriarchy, like I mentioned, and I have 20 patriarchy hacks in there. I made a lot of women's lives easier because I've laid out a bunch of hacks and cheat codes that they can use to win in this game. Okay? And the game is adaptive. So if enough players use the hacks and the cheat codes, then the game starts to rewrite itself. And that is a lot more effective than doing short-term gratification things like getting loud and angry. Because by hacking the patriarchy, you're smashing it in the most effective way. And this conversation isn't over. We've just opened this chapter. All right, thank you all so much for tuning in. If you want to grab a copy of my book, the link is in the description. It's available on Amazon and also available independently from me if you want to get a signed copy or a digital copy that might not be available in your country on Amazon. And don't forget that you are the baddest bitch in any building that you step foot in. In the meantime, stay bad. Love you. Bye. All right, it's time to run through all my shout-outs of the bad bitches supporting on Patreon. I changed accents. Shout out to Kate, Danny, Lindsay, Emberly, Brittany, Hannah, Shara, Amanda, Adriana, Mina, Gemma, Katya, May, Naomi, Nilufar, Adelaide, Nadia, Faith, Amy, Melinda, Sophia M, Sophia K, Jada, Amara, and Kat. Thank you, baddies, so much for your support.
We are happy to say we copy.